There was a man named John. He had two sons, Alex and Ryan. John had a successful business, and he was very proud of what he had built. Alex, the older son, was very serious about the business. He worked hard every day, helping his father with important decisions and learning everything he could about the company. Alex was also very supportive of his father, always offering words of encouragement and helping him with his responsibilities. Ryan, on the other hand, was a different story. He was younger and didn't take the business seriously. Instead of working hard and learning about the company, Ryan spent his father's money on his friends and girlfriend. He would often go out to expensive restaurants and buy expensive gifts for his friends and girlfriend. John was very disappointed in Ryan's behavior. He had hoped that his younger son would follow in Alex's footsteps and take an interest in the business. But Ryan just didn't seem to care. One day, John sat down with Ryan and had a talk with him. "Ryan, I'm very disappointed in the way you're spending your money," he said. "You need to start taking the business seriously and helping out more," but Ryan just shrugged it off. "Don't worry, Dad," he said. "I'll be fine. I'll just keep spending your money and having fun." John was heartbroken. He didn't know what to do with Ryan. He hoped that one day his younger son would realize the importance of hard work and responsibility. Ryan would often go to his father's company, walking into the office with a sense of entitlement. He would head straight to the manager's office, where he would demand large sums of money. "Give me $10,000, Ryan would say, without explanation. "I need it for something." The manager, who had been instructed by John to give Ryan a limited allowance, would hesitate. But Ryan would just smile and say, "Don't worry, Dad will pay you back." The manager would sigh and hand over the money, knowing that John would not be happy about it. But Ryan didn't care. He would take the money and leave the office, feeling rich and powerful. Ryan would spend the money on expensive things, designer clothes, luxury watches, and fancy cars. He would throw lavish parties and buy expensive gifts for his friends and girlfriend, but no matter how much money Ryan spent, he was never satisfied. He always wanted more, and he would go back to the company again and again, demanding more money. When the manager reported the Ryan to his father, he was very upset with the manager and told him not to give Ryan a dime again, else he will lose his job. John would often praise Alex in front of Ryan, encouraging him to work even harder. "Alex, you're doing a great job," John would say. "You're really taking care of the business. I'm so proud of you." Ryan would seethe with jealousy, feeling like his father didn't care about him. "You only love Alex," Ryan would say, his voice shaking with anger. "You don't care about me." John would try to reassure Ryan, "That's not true, son. I love you just as much as Alex. But you need to change your ways. You need to start taking responsibility and working hard." But Ryan wouldn't listen. Alex would try to advise Ryan, but he would lash out at Alex. "Mind your own business," he would say. "You're always trying to tell me what to do." Alex would try to calm Ryan down. "I'm just trying to help," he would say. "We're brothers, we should support each other." But Ryan wouldn't have it. He would insult Alex and tell him to stay away. Alex would shake his head and walk away, feeling sad that his brother couldn't see the damage he was causing. John would watch the exchange between his sons, feeling a mix of sadness and frustration. He didn't know how to reach Ryan, how to get him to see that his behavior was hurting everyone around him. As time went on, the tension between Alex and Ryan grew. Alex continued to work hard and earn his father's praise, while Ryan became more and more resentful. The distance between the two brothers grew, until it seemed like they were worlds apart. Mr. John saw the distance between his two sons and decided to take action. He called them both into his office and announced that he had decided to share his properties with them, even though he was still alive. "I want to make sure that both of my sons are taken care of," John said. I'm dividing my properties equally between the two of you. Alex, you'll get the business and the majority of the investments. Ryan, you'll get the cash and the luxury items. Ryan was overjoyed. He had always wanted to be rich and famous, and now he had the means to do it. He threw parties, bought expensive cars, and hung out with celebrities. He spent his money recklessly, without anyone to question him. On the other hand, Alex invested his money wisely. He expanded the business, made smart investments, and became even richer. Mr. John was proud of him, and he knew that he had made the right decision in giving Alex the majority of the investments. As time went on, Ryan's behavior became worse than ever. He surrounded himself with bad influences, and his partying and womanizing became legendary. He would often flaunt his wealth on social media, buying expensive jewelry and cars, and throwing lavish parties in expensive hotels. Mr. John was disappointed in Ryan's behavior, but he hoped that one day his son would learn to be more responsible. He was proud of Alex, who had proven himself to be a worthy successor to the family business. But little did Mr. John know, Ryan's behavior was about to catch up with him in a big way. Alex would often wait up late for Ryan to return home from his parties. When Ryan finally stumbled in, Alex would try to advise him to use his money wisely and to be more responsible. But Ryan would just insult Alex, telling him to mind his own business. One night, Ryan's luck ran out. As he was driving home late, he was ambushed by armed robbers. They took his expensive car, his wristwatch, his phone, and many of his other valuable possessions. Ryan was devastated. He cried all the way home, where he told his father what had happened. But Mr. John was unmoved. "I've told you many times to be more responsible and to come home at a decent hour," he said. "But you never listen." Ryan was furious. He insulted his father. "Dad, so this is all you could say? I knew it. I know you hate me, but I didn't know it's this much. You're such an irresponsible father. You're so selfish, Dad. I regret ever having you as my father. If I didn't get my properties back, Dad, I promise I will never forgive you." Alex tried to calm Ryan down. "Ryan, calm down. Don't speak to Dad in such manner. Let's settle this matter in peace." But instead of calming down, Ryan turned on Alex. "You're such a betrayal, bro. You took all our father's love and you're here telling me to calm down. You're nothing but a betrayal." Alex got upset, and the two brothers started fighting, and Mr. John, who had been watching the scene unfold trying to separate them, had a heart attack. He fell to the ground, unconscious. The family was in chaos. Alex and Ryan stopped fighting, and Alex called for an ambulance. Mr. John was rushed to the hospital, but it was too late. He had suffered a massive heart attack, and he did not survive. The family was in mourning. Alex was devastated by the loss of his father, and Ryan was not even bothered about the incident. After their father's burial, Ryan returned to his old ways. He continued to live a life of extravagance, spending his money lavishly on parties, cars, and women. He would often say, "The person who always blocked me from doing what I want is gone, so I'm going to live my life to the fullest." But as time went on, Ryan's money began to dwindle. He had spent so much on his lavish lifestyle that he was starting to run out of funds. Alex noticed what was happening and decided to distance himself from Ryan's financial recklessness. He left the family house and rented his own apartment. Ryan, however, continued to spend money he didn't have. He sold his father's cars without telling Alex. And when Alex confronted him, Ryan insulted him. Ryan's behavior became more and more erratic as he struggled to cope with the loss of his wealth. In a desperate bid to get more money, Ryan sold his father's mansion and all the properties his father had worked so hard to acquire. Alex was furious when he found out, and he called the police to arrest Ryan. Ryan was taken away in handcuffs, and Alex was left to pick up the pieces of their family's shattered legacy. But despite Ryan's betrayal, Alex couldn't bring himself to abandon his brother. He bailed Ryan out of jail and advised him to behave himself. Alex tried everything he could to make Ryan a better person. He took him to counseling sessions, introduced him to responsible friends, and even gave him a job at his company. But no matter what Alex did, Ryan continued to live his life recklessly. One day, Alex decided to call their auntie, their mother's elder sister, to come and advise Ryan. Auntie Margaret was a wise and kind woman, known for her ability to bring people together and solve problems. When Auntie Margaret arrived, Alex explained the situation to her and asked for her help. Auntie Margaret listened patiently, nodding her head and making supportive noises. Then, she turned to Ryan and began to speak. "Ryan, my dear boy," she said, "I know you're hurting and confused. But this behavior of yours is not the answer. You're destroying your life and hurting those who care about you." But Ryan was not interested in listening. He cut Auntie Margaret off, his voice rising in anger. "You're just an old woman," he sneered. "You don't know anything about my life. My father was rich, and I'm going to enjoy his wealth. Nobody has the right to stop me." Auntie Margaret's face fell, and she looked at Alex with sadness in her eyes. "I'm sorry, Alex," she said. "I didn't realize it was this bad." Alex shook his head, feeling defeated. "I've tried everything, Auntie," he said. "I don't know what to do anymore." Auntie Margaret sighed and stood up, her eyes fixed on Ryan. "I'm going to give you one last piece of advice, Ryan," she said. "You're going to regret this behavior of yours one day. Mark my words." And with that, Auntie Margaret turned and walked away, leaving Ryan to his destructive path. Ryan's behavior continued to spiral out of control. He started staying out late, coming home in the early hours of the morning. Alex tried to caution him, but Ryan wouldn't listen. One day, Alex had had enough. "If you can't come home at a decent hour and respect my rules, then maybe you should find your own place," Alex said, anger in his voice. Ryan, feeling invincible, decided to take Alex up on his offer. He rented his own apartment and thought he had finally achieved the freedom he had always wanted, but Ryan's newfound freedom came with a price. He got involved with a shady friend who introduced him to a world of trouble. One night, they were fighting over a woman, and Ryan, fueled by his ego and wealth, snatched the woman away from his friend, but his friend was not one to be trifled with. He was part of a gang, and they didn't take kindly to Ryan's actions. One day, they showed up at Ryan's apartment, intent on teaching him a lesson. In the ensuing chaos, Ryan was shot in both legs. He lay on the floor, bleeding and in agony, as the gang fled the scene. With great effort, Ryan managed to crawl to his phone and call Alex. "Please, Alex, help me," Ryan begged, his voice weak with pain. Alex rushed to Ryan's apartment, his heart racing with fear. When he arrived, he found Ryan lying on the floor, his legs bleeding profusely. Alex rushed Ryan to the hospital. His mind filled with worry. After what seemed like an eternity, the doctor finally came out to speak with Alex. "I'm afraid Ryan's injuries are severe," the doctor said. "He'll never walk again." Alex was devastated. He went to Ryan's bedside, his anger and sadness boiling over. "Ryan, what have you done to yourself?" Alex asked, his voice shaking with emotion, but Ryan was confused and asked, "Alex, what are talking about? The doctor said there's no chance of you walking again," Alex replied. Ryan, filled with regret and shame, began to cry. "I'm sorry, Alex," he sobbed. "I was wrong to disobey you and ignore your warnings. Please forgive me." Ryan also called out to their parents, asking for their forgiveness. "Mom, Dad, I'm sorry," he cried. "I know I've let you down. Please forgive me." As Ryan lay in the hospital bed, his life forever changed. He finally realized the error of his ways. He had taken his family's love and support for granted, and now he was paying the price. After several weeks in the hospital, Ryan was finally discharged. Alex was there to support him, and he had even gotten Ryan a wheelchair to help him get around. Ryan was determined to turn his life around. He realized that he had made mistakes and that he had hurt the people he loved. He apologized to Alex again, and he also reached out to Auntie Margaret to apologize for his behavior. Ryan was determined to become self-sufficient again. He pleaded with Alex to find him a job, any job, that he could do despite his physical limitations. Alex, seeing the sincerity in Ryan's eyes, agreed to help him. Alex gave Ryan a job in one of his offices, a job that was suitable for someone with Ryan's condition. Ryan was grateful and threw himself into the work. It took him a long time to learn, but he put in extra effort and was soon working hard alongside Alex. As they worked together, the brothers' relationship began to heal. They started to rebuild their bond, and soon they were closer than ever. Ryan was grateful for a second chance, and he was determined to make the most of it. One day, Ryan asked Alex to take him to their parents' grave. Ryan sat in his wheelchair, surrounded by the peaceful atmosphere of the cemetery. He began to apologize to his parents, promising to make them proud. Ryan was overcome with emotion, and he broke down in tears. Alex joined him, and together they cried and mourned the mistakes of the past. After visiting the cemetery, Ryan and Alex returned home. They called a family meeting, and Ryan apologized to everyone for his past behavior. The family was forgiving, and they welcomed Ryan back with open arms. After the apology, the family called for a party and they all celebrated their union.